to take away from Caleb Williams' talent. Caleb Williams' talent is up here, okay? I got questions about Caleb Williams, the person, and I got questions about what the hell happened to him the second half of the season that he fell off. And I said it to Kuiper yesterday, and he agreed with me. I said, until you find out why, and I must have said this 1,000 times the last month and a half, until you get an acceptable answer for why, then you got to question making that selection. And I don't care everybody says he's a generational quarterback. He's not a generational quarterback until he proves he's a generational quarterback.
Hey everyone, it's Aldo Gandia, and last year, almost 12 months to the day, I said this upcoming draft is going to be the biggest in Bears history. And guess what? I'm saying it again this year because this one is really the biggest one in Bears history. It's unbelievable that, again, the Chicago Bears have the #1 overall choice, and the controversy that's developing about what they're going to do with the first-round draft pick, it has got all of Chicago and Chicago social media in an uproar. Well, over the next several months, Danny Shimon are going to sift through, get past all of those comments and look at tape and talk about the prospects and their talent and evaluate and talk to experts. We're going to do it the right way, and we're not going to argue about it. We're just going to put our intellectual caps on, ask the right questions, ask the tough questions, and hopefully by the time the draft rolls around, we'll be better informed about what the Chicago Bears could do. So that way, when we criticize them, which we will inevitably do, we'll have some facts to back it up. All right, let me bring in the star of the show. His name is Danny Shimon. Danny, how are you, my friend?
I am excited. I am pumped. It's a new season of Draft on Tap. You and I are going to be going through this journey together here, Aldo, and I'm so excited to have you here along with me. It is like I said, a very, very, very pivotal, important draft for the Bears, a pivotal off season for the Bears. If Ryan Poles and company hits this, correctly, does this correctly, this could set the team up for years to come. And on the flip side, if they mess it up, if they wet the bed, this could set the franchise back, 5, 6, 7 years. So it's a huge draft. We're going to break down, prospects, in terms of how I see players fitting in the Bears scheme, Bears culture, Bears needs, so on and so forth. So we're going to hit position groups from the quarterbacks, running backs, every single position group. We're going to talk about it. Obviously, you are the king of the special teams. You'll even break down punters for us if we need a punter or two. But I'm just happy to be on this journey with you and excited to get started. And I do digress. We are going to argue. At least you and I are going to argue about some players here and there. I'm pretty sure we are.
Yeah, but we'll do it civilly, and not like some of the stuff I'm seeing on social media now, which is really
social media is toxic right now. It is toxic.
Oh my goodness! And it's impossible, of course, for Danny to scout all 400 players or however many prospects there are this year. But what we're going to do is you tell Danny in the chat room, and I'll save the name. Tell him who you would like him to scout, and then he'll do the work in a week or two and report back to us on this show. Or also we'll bring in guests who can talk about the player that you've brought up. So I can't think of a better way to introduce our guest today, JP Acosta from the Sports Nation. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me back on again. Like you guys said, this feels like a big moment in the Bears for the Bears' future. This could set them up for sustained success, or you're going back to the 8 ball. You're going back around. It feels like you're going to hit the go back to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. It feels like you might hit that one.
Yeah, indeed.
Yep.
And there's one of the reasons I love having you on is now you are out of Atlanta, right?
I'm out of Orlando, Florida.
I apologize. But you went to Northwestern University. So you've got a taste of Chicago Bears culture, the fanaticism with the Bears and so forth. You know a lot about the Bears, but you covered the NFL and other sports for Sports Nation. Before we get started, and Danny and you are going to talk about the Senior Bowl, tell people where they can find your work and how they can follow you on social media.
Of course. So I am technically the lead NFL draft writer for SB Nation, but I'm really just a football writer. Anywhere where there's football being played, whether it's at college, NFL draft, you'll probably find me tweeting about it or on Threads talking about it. Of course, like it says up there, JP Acosta 32 on Threads, Acosta 32_JP on Twitter. Basically where I'm going to be putting all the clips that I see of players I think are interesting, some of the ups, some of the downs, and just my general thoughts on the NFL draft, maybe some anime or Disney stuff in there too. But make sure you follow, see what I'm doing.
You got it, man. All right, Danny, why don't you take it away, brother?
Well, JP, again, thanks for joining us. We appreciate some of your time here. And obviously, next week is a big week for a lot of these underclassmen now this year. Are invited to the Senior Bowl along with the obviously the seniors. So practices start next week, and obviously the third is February 3rd is the actual game. And you're going to be attending there, and Jim Nagy and his scouts do a great job of putting together a great roster. And I do just want to kind of run through some of the names, some of the players that I'm looking at, and obviously that you're looking forward to seeing there in person. And we always start off with obviously the main group, right? Quarterback, or those are the guys that get all the girls, get all the money, the big money, and everything else. The criticism, you name it, right? Like we just talked about here, our Chicago Twitter is crazy between people who want Caleb, people who want Justin. I'm in a Justin Fields camp, just a FYI, but we can discuss that later on. But going down to the Senior Bowl this year, the quarterback crop isn't really great. Just kind of looking at it, I mean, there's some intrigued guys on day 2, day 3. I think that the two biggest names, at least for me, and I'm kind of curious to see what you think of, are Michael Penix from Washington State, obviously. Washington. And Bo Nix, and I think some people have forgotten about Bo Nix. He obviously started off at Auburn. He was one of those prize recruits. Came in, looked the part, but just never played the role, right? And I think his last couple of years in Oregon, I think he really kind of put everything together. From what I'm talking to people I know, the biggest question with Bo Nix is that offense, right? Does that offense and his simple reads, is that going to translate, to the next level? And I guess in terms of, let's start with Nix first. What are you looking for Nix to go down there in Mobile and kind of establish, in terms of, what are you going to look for in terms of, is it going to be accuracy, placement? Is this going to be running an NFL type offense under center? What are you going to be looking for from Bo Nix?
From Bo Nix, I really want to see his process in an NFL offense. I think that is the biggest thing that I'm worried about when it comes to Bo Nix. Like you said, the offense felt very watered down, very, get the ball out to the playmakers, which is fine. Like that is something that he has shown he's very good at. He's got a quick trigger. He can get the ball accurate out into the short areas of the field. And then when everything is clean, when he only has to read one half of the field, he can get the ball to the intermediate levels. I'm just worried about the full field read that you're going to have to make as an NFL quarterback. So I'm excited to see how he looks in processing a full field, in seeing what defense is going to show him pre-snap, post-snap, how he adjusts to that, how he adjusts to stimuli that he's not going to see at the college football level. I mean, I think one of the biggest benefactors of Brock Purdy being as successful as he is in San Francisco is Bo Nix. I feel like you can say, hey, look at that guy. He might not be the most athletic, not have the most high level tools, but if you surround him with an offense full of playmakers and a good play caller who can maximize his strengths while hiding his weaknesses, that feels like something Bo Nix can do. So I want to be able to see him go through NFL reads, NFL progressions against other NFL caliber players.
Right, and I agree. And I think the stage at the SEC might have been too big for him, and it might have been him and Gus Malzahn just didn't see eye to eye there when he was at Auburn. And for whatever reason, he looked the part. Like I said, he's got the size, arm strength, looks decent up, above average arm strength, and he's got the athletic ability to be able to be a quote unquote dual threat quarterback. But it just never worked out for him. And I just think he looked more comfortable up in Eugene, Oregon, and playing on that system. And again, the next progression, all right. And I someone from the chat said that Bo Nix looks like a backup quarterback, and that could be true. But he's got tons of experience, tons of start under his belt. And there's scuttlebutt. He could go late first, early second round. So, and now if you see some of these mock drafts coming out, you see Bo Nix's name, sprinkled in there. Don't be surprised. So scouts like Bo Nix, and I think you're right. I think that the Brock Purdy effect, the experience, all these starts under his belt, he's seen a lot of competition, a big time experience, some big time games. I think that's going to propel him in some of these scouts' eyes and maybe some of these GM's eyes. So we'll see what happens there. But the other guy obviously is Penix Jr. And I'm he's a guy that. I've started off here in Indiana in the Midwest, had the bad, the ACL injury and then the separated shoulder, and then going to Washington and just really, again, turn his career around, back-to-back 4,000-yard seasons, 30-plus touchdowns the last 2 seasons. His ability and from what just kind of scouting him is his accuracy with that ball and that placement is phenomenal. But again, injuries, 6th-year senior, the age thing creeps in there. His lower body is really stiff, and that could be some of the injuries. It could just be some of the, his throws a lot of them are just arm talent, right? And we saw what happens in the national championship game. You get pressure on him, you get him a little rattled. He can't really move around. And I think that, and then you get to Michael Penix Jr. So I think, where do you see him? Because I mean, a lot after that first semifinal game, everybody's talking about him in the first round. And then after that national championship game, now everyone's like talking about, oh, well, maybe he might be a second, third round pick. I still see him in that second round range. Do you think he can boost himself down to Mobile this week, possibly get into the bottom half of that first round?
So I think he can boost himself with a good week in Mobile, but I ultimately think the biggest questions about Michael Penix are going to be answered with medicals, and once you're playing against people that actually are going to hit you in live speed. I think the medicals are going to be the biggest problem here. Like you said, litany of injuries. You see it on the field. You see the talent. You see the arm strength. It is an effortless flick of the wrist with Michael Penix. You can see the ball just fly off the arm. I think the ball placement kind of comes and goes. I think there were some games where it was kind of spotty, but when he's on, he's hitting everything like he did against Texas. When he was on, he was hitting every single throw. The thing I worry about the most is that creation aspect. One of the things that stood out amongst the quarterbacks that were in the playoffs this year is the ability to create under pressure. And it's not just getting out the pocket and doing the crazy, like Patrick Mahomes stuff. It's not doing that. It's creating within the pocket, creating your own lanes to get the ball off. CJ Stroud, phenomenal at it. Jordan Love was really good at it, throwing off his back foot. I want to see Michael Penix develop in that area. With the injuries, you kind of see him as kind of like a feet set pocket passer. He showed a little bit of it against Texas, but against Michigan, he looked pretty rattled when he had to create under pressure. So that's really the biggest thing that I would like to see from him. But in terms of what we're going to see in Mobile, I think he can improve his stock, improve his placement by just showing that the ball placement downfield is as consistent as it showed on tape. I think right now, for me, just based on talent alone, he is a third round pick, third round, but with the litanies of injuries, man, it's going to be really tough to sell an NFL franchise on that.
Yeah, in terms of first round money, yeah, that's something that he's going to be battling as well. Correct. So obviously those are Sam Hartman is a guy that intrigues me as a mid to late round guy. Could be stick around for a couple of years and be a good backup. Again, talking about a guy that's in that Brock Purdy kind of range there as well. Multiple starts, a lot of starts on his career. So he could be a guy that could be some team might take a flyer on in day 3. But let's move on to quarterbacks that are not in Mobile this week. And obviously the talk here with the Bears having the first round pick, we touched on it earlier, is the whole Caleb versus Justin Fields thing. But kind of breaking down these quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and then also Drake May. The consensus out there is that it's going to be Caleb or Drake, 1 and 2, however way you pick it, and then Jayden Daniels. Well, breaking down his tape, JP, and this is something that might shock you and might shock some of the listeners here. I think Jayden Daniels is going to go ahead of Drake May. And I think Jayden Daniels, depending on how Caleb Williams goes through the draft process, and if he answers a lot of those questions that scouts had that they told me beginning of this college football season, that he had some answers to attest to in terms of off the field stuff, not on the field talent. I think Jayden Daniels will be the second quarterback taken, and there's an outside shot he could be the first quarterback taken. What are your thoughts on that?
I think people will fall in love with the athleticism of Jayden Daniels and just the boom plays. That is something Jayden Daniels is really good at. He is a special athlete at the position. He is a immediate plus in the run game. He can turn a 5-yard carry into a 15, 20-yard carry. He's got his accuracy downfield has improved so much this year that it's like he was a completely different quarterback. The downfield placement was exceptional in the SEC. I still have him at QB3 behind. Actually, I have May first, then Caleb Williams second.
Really?
But
okay.
I think Jayden Daniels he's immediately the next third guy up. I just wonder with Jayden Daniels, first of all, every hit that he takes at the college level, he got kind of Wile E. Coyote'd, which he got hit with the Acme anvil, and every hit seemed like it looked like it was going to divide him in half. So you worry about his ability to not take as many hits. I think the comparisons to Lamar Jackson, sure, you can go that way if you want to, but one of Lamar's special abilities is not being able to get hit. He knew when to not take major hits. Jayden Daniels is taking major hits a lot, and that's something that's a little concerning. And I'd also like to see some of the short area accuracy improve. So those are kind of things where okay, you can get them into an NFL room and kind of iron those out. And then as you play, you kind of learn, okay, I don't want to take that hit. Maybe I'll just slide this time. But I think he is my quarterback 3, but he's going to go 3rd, 4th overall.
All right, so just I'm curious. So you have Drake May as your top quarterback. Explain why you have him as number 1.
So ultimately, I feel like this is going to be a very important process because of what the NFL wants out of young quarterbacks. I think with Caleb Williams, you get the exceptional boom plays, the outside, the creativity. I think for me, I like Drake May's process a little bit more than Caleb Williams' process. I think Caleb Williams will miss a couple of reads. He will miss the easy backside dig, or he'll miss the slant coming open, and then he'll bail out the pocket, bail out of a clean pocket. He did that a lot. He'll bail out of clean pockets and then have to can the ball. Plays dead. He kind of reminds me a little bit of a bigger version of Kyler Murray. And what made Kyler so great was Kyler was an exceptional athlete. Caleb Williams is also a very good athlete. I think that's something that's going to help him. But I think the process is something that I would like to see ironed out a little bit, where I think Drake May has the advantage. I think the gap between Williams and May in terms of the creation aspect of their game, I think that is a smaller gap than the one that is May's process within the pocket and creativity within the pocket than Caleb Williams within the pocket.
Yeah, and in terms of I have him Caleb 1, Jayden Daniels 2, and Drake May 3. And the reason why, and again, Drake May is a prototypical NFL quarterback, right? The size 6'3", 6'4", good arm strength. But and you're right, he does a good job in terms of staying in the pocket, going through his progression. I like the way he shuffles his feet, keeps plays alive. He's not he is sneaky athletic. He's not the dual threat per se like a Jayden Daniels or a Caleb Williams is. The reason why I have Caleb 1, and for me, I'm a Justin Fields guy, and I wish the Bears would just keep Justin Fields, build around him. But with Caleb, man, it's like you put that tape on, and every game there's how do you do that? How do you complete that throw? And the arm talent that he has, and the ability to make accurate throws 30, 40, 50 yards down the field, off platform, and behind, in terms of just creating in a backfield, and not necessarily creating to run, but creating and then looking downfield and making those off platform throws, off target throws, and so on and so forth. I think that's what's so enticing with him. Now, again, for me, with Caleb, the big question is off the field, right? Is he the guy that's going to be, a we guy? Is he a team guy? Is he a me guy? And those are the questions that he's going to have to answer throughout the process. But I just think, and I don't think with Drake May, I think his delivery to me is a tad bit slow. I think I mean, and you can coach it up and you can work on his footwork and maybe speed it up. But I think you go out there with Caleb and you have a chance to win a more, I guess, immediately, if you will, depending on who's around him, right? Than a Drake May. I think Drake will be a fine, solid quarterback. But I think Caleb has a chance to be special. But again, the off the field stuff is what concerns me about Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and I think the boom, like I said, the boom plays for Caleb Williams that's what you want out of the NFL quarterback. For me, I'd like to see a little bit of the process ironed out. I think for all these guys, I think they could stand like, hey, we need a good quarterback coach, someone to come in, kind of be like, hey, let's not bail on this pocket. You can see this right here. This is open. You can take this if you want. I think it's going to take a little bit more with Caleb Williams because he's so good at creation. It is both his greatest trait and it's also his biggest drawback, where he will bail on a clean pocket and it'll work at the college level because he's a much better athlete than everybody else on the field. But when you get him into an NFL game with guys who are just as fast, just as smart, those windows close really quickly. So I think this is going to be a really big, like in terms of the 1-2 with May and Caleb Williams, and where the NFL is going quarterback wise in terms of what you want out of a quarterback. I think we've kind of gone away a little bit from everybody needs to be like Patrick Mahomes outside of the pocket, because there aren't a lot of guys like that, to where we need the creation within the pocket. We need you to hang in there. We need you to be able to move around and create off platform, but within those confined areas.
Right.
So,
right. That's what Justin's battling here in Chicago. That they're taking, and he's a guy that also, that's the thing I point out to Aldo when I was watching Caleb Williams games. I'm like, listen, there's wide receivers open coming across the field, and he's looking at him, but he's not pulling the trigger. That's the same question we had here with Justin's. Why isn't he pulling the trigger? Now, a lot of times, and I don't know obviously what's going on in their the thought process here when the obviously the game is going on, but these quarterbacks that are athletic, these quarterbacks that can buy time, they're always looking for that big play. They're always looking at, well, if I can hold on to the ball just a little bit longer because I can juke this guy, I can evade this guy, and I don't want this 10-yard slam. I can get that guy running that post route. Just give him some more time to get open. I think that's something that's creeped into Caleb Williams or Justin Fields, and I think that's where you're talking about. You got to coach them out of it and just be a fit into that system. And a lot of times I think a lot of these quarterbacks don't fit into that system. And I think some of them, like with Justin, I think it takes a little bit more time, some better coaching, which is what I've been harping all season. I think that's where we go. I think I see similarities there between Justin and Caleb Williams in terms of the thought process and a little bit delay in terms of pulling the trigger. So it sounds like you and I both agree there on that aspect there.
Yeah, I think with Caleb, I also think it's important to point out that the USC offense in 2023 was horrific. It
was bad.
It felt like Lincoln Riley and Cliff Kingsbury decided, oh, we have the potential number 1 pick at quarterback. We're not going to do anything to help him. We'll just roll the ball out and say, hey, Caleb, go do something cool, which is fine, like at the college level. And you won 7 games doing it. But it's really hard to get to parse that. Was this the offense or was this Williams kind of just bailing on the clean pocket? I think same thing with Drake May to an extent. Both these guys came in as really high, really heralded recruits, and at the end of the day, they left the college football landscape without either of them having gone to a playoff game.
Right.
So
right.
I think with May, one of my biggest drawbacks for May is he'll force the ball. He believes so much in his arm talent and his ability to create throws that he will force a pass. And that's something like I'd much rather for a quarterback to be aggressive and you coach that out of them than coach a quarterback to be aggressive. You'd rather coach him to take the layup instead of, hey, you're open at the 3-point line, go ahead and shoot it, instead of trying to dribble out and make a pass and turn the ball over. You know,
Right.
I'd much rather be able to coach you down instead of coach up to taking that aggression. But
Right.
I think it's really close for me. I think it's May, Williams, and Daniels, but the gap between 1 and 2 is razor thin. It's very much 1A, 1B.
Well, we can sort of talk about this all night long. I'm pretty sure about it because it's a big debate. And but we're going to move on. So next position group I want to talk about it, Dant and Mobile are obviously, and the group that I think the Bears really need to concentrate on, because I think they need to bring in an influx of young talent here. It's a receiver group, right? And there's a ton of names there that I like. Give me a couple of guys that you're looking forward to going out and seeing, and guys that you think can make that leap, surprise, like Tank Dell last year went down there and lit up the place. Rashee Rice came out of there and went to the Chiefs, and he's playing for a chance to go to Super Bowl this weekend. So give me a couple of guys that you think can go down there and make a name for themselves this week, or next week I should say, in Mobile, and be the next Tank Dell, Rashee Rice, so on and so forth.
So if you're looking for a guy who's going to be the next Tank Dell, Jacob Cowing from Arizona is one of my guys. He's not that big. He's not that heavy. He's maybe like 170 pounds soaking wet. But the dude is a professional get opener. It doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter where you put him. He is going to get open. He is electric when he has the ball in his hands. He can create separation. He is a downfield target. He's more than likely a slot only. He's kind of like Tank Dell in that way. But if Chicago is looking for another slot option to potentially replace Darnell Mooney, I think Jacob Cowing is a really great option. One of my guys is Xavier Leggett from South Carolina. Big, strong, physical receiver, but he doesn't move. And
he looks the part.
He is a first off the bus receiver.
Yep.
That's the guy you want leading the team out for pregame to intimidate the other team, but he doesn't move like a big physical receiver does.
Right.
So I think the downfield speed probably isn't like he's not going to burn past people.
He doesn't create some separation. He doesn't get open that much.
Yeah, he's more of like a mid 4.5s, maybe like low 4.6, maybe. But the dude creates separation in the intermediate areas of the field. He's an X, but can also be used as a power slot in the slot a lot. They use him like that in South Carolina. He can take screens, and he's a running back after the catch. He's so physical in the in-between game. I actually kind of think he's a little similar body-wise and play style-wise to Michael Pittman with the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah. I think both those guys are bigger physical guys, but they don't move in the way that bigger physical guys do. They are more in between. They kind of operate in the mid-range game. They'll be the ones to take slants, and they'll be ones to hit digs over the middle. Dude's also extremely tough. There are moments when he's getting folded, he's getting hit in the knees. Yep. He's getting absolutely tattooed across the middle. He just kept getting back up. He is one of my guys. And then the last one is a guy that, of course, I've seen a lot of, having lived in Florida. Ricky Pearsall is somebody that I actually wasn't that high on coming into the season, but this season he really stood out to me. He is another one of those. I think he is a kind of inside out guy. You start him out in the slot, but he is a smooth route runner. He's probably going to have a lot of highlight tapes in the one-on-ones when you're creating space to get open. He is a professional get opener. He's got amazing hands. Of course, he had the catch of the year in college football, I believe against South Florida, where he reaches across his body and catches it with one hand. He has exceptional hands, great body control. He's probably going to be more around that mid to late round guy, but he's going to immediately come in. If you're potentially looking for a guy like maybe an impact like Puka Nacua later, like this year, like a later round guy that could have an instant impact on your team, Ricky Pearsall is definitely a guy I'd want to watch out for.
It's funny because you mentioned Jacob Cowing, because later on the show, I have my 10 guys that I'm watching, and specifically looking at the Bears, and Cowing is that guy that jumped out at me. And let me know if you agree with this, but my comp for him is Zay Flowers. I mean, that's the kind of guy, young, diminutive, 5'9", like you said, 175, 170 pounds, that range, quick as heck. Can take a jet sweep and run it, 30, 40 yards, tough over the middle. The guy can, battles against, bigger corners is not intimidated. So I think that's my comp. That's one guy I'm looking at as well. So yeah. And then a couple of guys that you didn't mention that I'm looking at is one of is Brendan Rice. Obviously talk about Caleb Williams. Brendan Rice is his top target. Obviously his dad, the Hall of Famer Jerry Rice. I think Brendan is a guy. You mentioned Puka Nacua. Now, he doesn't have the quickness overall, I think, like a Puka Nacua, but he's got some of that deep speed that we talked about earlier. Ability to, he's a bigger guy, 6'1", 6'2", almost 200 pounds, but he's got about, I'd say, four, high 4.4s, low 4.5 speed. They can be a deep threat, and it could be a nice, because I'm looking for an X for the Bears, right? So they just hired Shane Waldron as their offensive coordinator, and the Bears have that Z and DJ Moore, but I think we're looking for that X. And obviously, Waldron came from Seattle, where they had the big X, and Metcalf. So I'm looking for a big guy, and I think Brendan Rice can fill that role. What do you think about Brendan?
So I actually think Brendan Rice is a really intriguing prospect. He looks kind of stiff on tape sometimes, where it's like, I don't know if he's going to run very fast or if he's going to move that well, but he's so physical and so strong at the catch point, or sometimes it just doesn't matter. Like, he doesn't create that much separation, but he's so good at the catch point that it doesn't really matter. I think he's probably best suited to be a number 3, where you can kind of operate him in the red zone. I think he shows flashes of good route running ability. I kind of think he's a little similar to Van Jefferson in a way. Van Jefferson was really good with the Rams as like a number 3, next to Cooper Kupp and next to Robert Woods and then Odell Beckham Jr. But I think Brendan Rice is someone who's going to be really useful for an NFL team. I think he kind of goes under the radar, even though he is the son of Jerry Rice. But I think you can get him onto an NFL team, and you can coach him up to be an outside guy with a true like number 1 receiver on the inside of him or next to him.
Gotcha. So the other group that obviously I'm looking at here for the Bears and is the offensive line, right? I love big guys, man. I love offensive linemen, I love defensive linemen. So offensive line guys, I have my couple guys I'm keeping an eye on. I'm interested to see who you're going to be looking at those one-on-ones, because those are the best parts in the Senior Bowl practices, when those big guys go one-on-one, defensive line versus offensive line. That's the best part of practices for me when I watch those guys go at it. So who are you looking forward to down there in Mobile in terms of the offensive line group?
So one of the first guys, they're both 2 guys who I think they're a little younger, but they're entering the draft. They have real nice athletic tools. First one is Kingsley Suamataia from BYU, transferred from Oregon to BYU. That is a massive dude, massive human being. And he looks the part. He can move, he's a big guy. He can move his feet a little bit. I think he can iron out some technique issues in pass protection, where he'll lean a little bit, or he'll shoot his hands too early. The timing is a little off sometimes, but you want a moldable ball of clay like Kingsley Suamataia on your team. He played right tackle predominantly at BYU, so it'll be a weird fit, especially with Darnell Wright locking down the right side of the offensive line for Chicago. But I love Kingsley Suamataia's athletic tools, just like I also like Oklahoma's Tyler Guyton. Tyler Guyton has a really good chance to go into Mobile as kind of a late first, early second guy and leave as a solid first-round pick. He has those athletic tools. Also another right tackle. Could possibly move inside the guard if you want to kick him inside. Again, another extremely athletic prospect. Easy mover, got great feet. And again, there's a little bit of technique issues with his hand placement, the leverage, but you want those guys with athletic tools there for you. You want to bring in those guys because you never know what they can turn into. You want to get them into your system and try and turn them into a player that you would think you would like based on the athletic tools they have. Those are a couple guys I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, it's funny because Kingsley is on my list. I'm going to talk about later on. Another guy I'm interested as well, but he's actually played left and right tackle. He started 2 seasons. One, I think it was last year left tackle, this year right tackle. So he's got the versatility. Again, the Bears, seemingly have their left and right tackle right now, but he's a guy that intrigues me in terms of size, athletic ability. Like you said, a clay, you can kind of mold him into a starting caliber player. The other guy I like, and he's Jacob Cowing's teammate is Jordan Morgan from Arizona. Big guy, 6'5", 300 plus pounds. Really light on his feet, real athletic. Now he's a pure left tackle. Obviously had the ACL tear last year, came back this year, started 12 games for Arizona. He's a guy that really does intrigue me as well as a potential guy that could go late first round and could be a day 1 starter. What's your thoughts on Jordan Morgan?
So Jordan Morgan is, like you said, he is a great mover. Even with the ACL tear, great mover. You can want to get him out in space, there are a lot of times Arizona threw a lot of screens to Cowling, and Jordan Morgan's out there in front of him looking like a semi-truck on the freeway. You don't want to get in front of him. I think there are a little bit of issues, like you said, with the bend at the hips. You know, there's a little issue there. I think that's also another guy who could potentially move to guard. I think there are a lot of guys like that in this upcoming tackle class where outside of maybe the top 5 or 6, you're seeing like, hey, we could probably move you inside the guard. Or, hey, maybe we move you to right tackle, somewhere where you might have a better chance of winning consistently. But Jordan Morgan can start at tackle, and you can move him to guard if you want to. I think another guy like that is Troy Fautanu from Washington. Obviously, with Washington making the national championship, a lot of attention was on Fautanu. That is a people mover in the run game. He is willing to get down and dirty in the run game, will cave guys in on the left side of the ball. He's also fairly clean as a pass protector. I worry a little bit about the arm length, which is why, you want to kick him inside the guard. But you want a guy with that kind of versatility where, hey, maybe even if his arms are too short, try him at tackle first and see what works. If it doesn't work, you can move him inside a guard. Either way, you will have a starting caliber tackle.
One more guy, real quick, Aldo. I'm sorry to interrupt, but another guy. Speaking of tackle, moving inside, and keep an eye on this guy down there. JP is the kid from Duke, Graham Barton. He's got some nastiness, and if I see an offensive lineman with nastiness in him, he shoots up on my boards, and he's got my attention. So keep an eye on Graham Barton from Duke. Yeah,
he is another guy where you could even play him at center. I believe Dane Brugger from The Athletic had him listed as a center. I think you can play him there. He is an instant run game improver because you want guys with that edge. You want run blocking as much as it is technical about leverage and getting the right angles in the run game. You want to finish the block, and Graham Barton's going to finish a run block.
Love it. JP, we've kept you longer than we told you, so can you stay another 10 minutes with us?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Want to turn our attention now to the defensive side of players who are playing at the Senior Bowl. From the defensive line position, the Bears are in need of a complementary defensive end to work with Montez Sweat. Which of these guys do you think is a big body defensive end who's good at stopping the run and providing some pass rush?
So the first guy that comes to mind when you talk about big body, stopping the run, providing pass rush is Adisa Isaac from Penn State. Penn State just seemingly creates these super juiced up freak athlete pass rushers just out of the factory. They have Chop Robinson, who's a junior, going to be entering the draft this year. He is a first round lock. He's more of a pass rusher than Adisa Isaac, but Isaac is another one of those first off the bus guys. I think he plays with a high motor. I worry a little bit about the bend consistently, but he's got power in his hands. Another guy with powerful hands is Chris Braswell from Alabama. I love Chris Braswell's game. He's another one of my guys. He plays with a high motor. He's got long arms. He wins with leverage. He has a nasty long arm. I think he can be more consistent with his bend. He looks kind of stiff sometimes, but if you're looking for complementary pass rushers on the edge, I would start with those two. And obviously, he kind of freelances against the run a little bit to me, but the premier pass rusher in the Senior Bowl in Mobile this year is going to be Leatu Latu from UCLA. He, like I said, freelances a little bit, but you talk about certified pass rusher, that's a guy who's going to get after the quarterback. He has so many moves and counters at his arsenal. I said it on Twitter. I said it on Threads a few weeks back, and this is only a play style, body style comparison. I am not talking about what this player is going to end up being. That is what I talk about with comparisons. He's very TJ Watt-ish in terms of how he plays. He wants to get around that corner first, and once he sets you up with that outside rip move, he's going to start throwing the inside counters at you. He's got a 6 swim move despite having kind of shorter arms, but he understands the nuances of being a pass.
He's a technician with his hands. He is. I haven't seen a technician like that since Joey Bosa, to be honest with you, come out with the ability to be able to use his hands, to be able to separate from offensive linemen. I think it's still early in the process, but I think he is going to be my highest rated player in Mobile on my board. I think the biggest question with him, with Latu, and Aldo, we'll get into him later on, he's one of my lists as well, is his medical. Obviously, 2 years ago, He had to medically retire from the University of Washington because of a neck injury. Took a year off. 5 doctors wouldn't allow him to play. There was thought of, if he, God forbid, could paralyze himself. And then he comes back, takes a year off, comes back, goes to UCLA, has that big neck brace behind his neck, like a pad last year, played well. And then this year I was gone. And he's been a monster the last 2 years. If his medicals come through, he's a top 10 pick all day for me.
I got to ask you, JP, about Braden Fisk, because J2K in the chat is in absolute love with him. Says he can even play fullback in the NFL. What have you seen when you've looked at Fisk? I think it's pronounced Fisk, F-I-S-K-E. Yeah. What have you seen on his tape?
He is a ball of energy at defensive tackle. He is he's a honey badger with a chainsaw. You do not want to play with that man. He has such a high motor. He is always moving. He's always constantly putting stuff together. I think he shows flashes of pass rush moves. Like, he shows flashes of hand usage. But I think at least you are getting a very, very high motor pass rusher that you can put on the inside and sub packages. I think he's got a low center of gravity, so you can't really move him that much in the run game. But that's a guy where he is a certified pocket denter on loops, games you want to run up front. You want that guy crashing into a tackle without him noticing, because he's going to bowl that tackle over. He is a consistently he's always moving. I think that's the biggest thing that I can say about Braden Fisk. And it's impressive for a defensive tackle, a 300-pound defensive tackle, to be constantly moving. He's constantly in motion, never stopping until he gets to the ball.
I know you're still looking at defensive backs, so we'll skip that for a future show. But from the linebacker group, when you head down to Mobile, who's going to catch your eye? Do you suspect is going to catch your eye?
So this is another guy where I think medicals are going to be huge for him, but Peyton Wilson from NC State, you cannot go against the production. He was everywhere for NC State. And what I loved about NC State's defense this year with Wilson is they played him everywhere. They played him on the edge. They played him as a stack backer. They played him out over slot receivers. He was constantly around the ball. I think he has good instincts in terms of finding the ball, in terms of getting off of blocks, and which is really impressive considering he's like 6'4", 230 to 35, 240 pounds with really long arms. It's really difficult for those guys with longer arms to get off of blocks at the second level, because you're so confined in those tight spaces, where it helps to have a little shorter arms because you can just punch and then get off. But he uses his arms. He uses his arm length really well. He's a guy that you can move around, be a little versatile with on pass rushing downs. Above everything else, you are getting somebody who's going to constantly find himself around the ball. That is something I think is the coolest thing about him. He's always going to be around the ball. One of the other linebackers that I'm really interested in looking at is Nelson Caesar from Houston. He's another one of my guys. He's not an off-ball linebacker. He is a edge. He is a pass rusher, but he brings something that a lot of guys don't really bring in this draft class, which is speed off the ball. He is a burst and speed guy off the edge. He is going to constantly bring that aspect of the game. And it's important because you look at this draft class, you can even go to last year's draft class too. You got a lot of pocket denters. You got a lot of guys who are going to win with long arms and bull rushes, and that's great. But if you're needing a guy who wins with speed, who wins at dip, and who wins with burst, Nelson Caesar is your guy. I think the frame is going to be huge. He's going to have to win weigh-ins, but I would love watching him rush the passer. I want to see him do it against other tackles that are a little bigger that he's going to see in Mobile. But that's one of my guys as well.
Yeah, Caesar is a guy I was looking at, Aldo, in terms of, undersized, because I'm looking for, specifically for the Bears, I'm looking for someone opposite of Montez. So I'm looking for a quick twitch. It doesn't have to be necessary that, the 6'4", 260, 275 defensive end. I'm looking for a guy that can bring some pressure. Caesar is one of them. Isaac is the one you talked about already, early on from Penn State. Another guy is Brendan Jackson from Washington State. The number 80 kind of throws you off. Like, was this guy a tight end before? Or what was his number 80 for? But that's his number. He's had a couple injuries in his career, so he's not a 50-year senior, but another guy that just plays with his hair on fire. I think that those are the three guys, these undersized edge guys to keep an eye on for our fans that are going to be watching the Senior Bowl practices. Those three guys are guys, potential day 3 guys that can come in and at least at the very end, be a situational pass rusher.
JP, before we get you out of here, a couple of NFL questions. First of all, what do you know about Shane Waldron, and do you think he can be an effective offensive coordinator with the roster that the Bears presently have, and maybe even, trading out at the quarterback position, Justin, for one of the top quarterbacks available in this draft? What do you know about Shane Waldron?
So what Shane Waldron is going to bring, he is, of course, I don't want to say descendant because it sounds like familial, but he is from the Sean McVay tree. He's going to bring a lot of wide zone, outside zone, boot action. But one of the things I thought was kind of his added touch, his added flavor to the McVay system was using pistol and using 2 tight end sets. When you think of Sean McVay and the Rams, you think of 11 personnel. They live and die in 11 personnel. Of course, the Seahawks ran a lot of 11 personnel. They were one of the 10 most high usage 11 personnel teams in the NFL last year. But what really separated them was they were 3rd in success rate out of 12 personnel. They love being in that. They love to get Noah Fant and they love to get Colby Parkinson or Will Dissly on the field together, because what he can do is he can get into those pistol looks. I wrote about it for SB Nation this year. He kind of takes aspects of a triple option looking offense, but he runs it with a tight end. So you have the defense in base personnel and you can throw out of that. And basically, you're playing the matchup game. And it's why I kind of think at 9, if they want to, you can take a Brock Bowers there. And I know they just paid Cole Kmet. I get it.
You lost me there, JP. You lost me, man.
I completely understand paying Cole Kmet. But Brock Bowers is a special tight end. He is a special mover, receiver at the position. I think he brings a lot more receiving upside, both in the short yardage and downfield. He is a monster after the catch. He is insane. They used him as a running back. They used him on jet sweeps at Georgia. They got him the ball in any way possible. I think if you're looking at wanting to live out of 12 personnel and you kind of look at a team kind of like in the division, you look at Green Bay, you look at what the success they had out of 12 personnel with Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, you say, hey, maybe – you can get Brock Bowers to be your Musgrave. You can get him to be the vertical stretcher while you have him running kind of he was very good at the split block. So you ran a lot of split zone at Georgia. He was great at the split block. So you have him running that split block, or you can leak him out the backfield. You want to get the ball in his hands. I think Shane Waldron, if it's Justin Fields, it's perfectly fine. But I think the potential of adding Brock Bowers to an offense with Kmet, who can be a very good short yardage, like he can work the intermediate, like short to intermediate range, but you can have another legitimate threat as a receiving option next to DJ Moore. You can be versatile. You can play the matchup game.
Vince wants to know, Danny, why no Bowers love? And before you answer that, I want to say real quick, I was looking at some Shane Waldron tape, and he ran a pistol with the running back behind the quarterback and 2 tight ends to the immediate right of the quarterback, Geno Smith. And when I saw that formation and the results that Waldron was getting out of that formation at the Senior Bowl, all of a sudden I said, you know what? Maybe I need to look at some Brock Bowers tape, because this guy could fit in really, really well. But Danny, why no Bowers love?
No shade on Brock Bowers. I think he's a heck of a talented pass catching threat, but he's going to come in around 6'2.5", maybe 6'3". I think that is not the size that we're looking for in terms of a tight end, like a complement to Cole Kmet. I think he's more of an H-back type, a guy that can have to scheme open at the next level, at the next NFL level. Speed wise, we'll see where he runs at the combine. But I don't, I know he looks fast in the SEC, but I just don't see him being. Now that he was injured this year, so. But again, at number 9, I'm looking at earmarked specifically for either a big receiver, like an X receiver, whether it's the kid from Washington, or Duzane, or like a Latu, the pass rusher from UCLA we're just talking about right now. But those are the impact players I'm looking at. And then I think what they're going to do for tight end, and I agree, and I love the fact that he runs 12 personnel, even 13 personnel, because I was here, and Aldo, you can attest to it, week in and week out last year, saying, get Justin under center, get the 12-man personnel out there. You're a running football team. And Getsy, who was here last year, just wouldn't stick to that. He just wouldn't be consistent with that. And I think Waldron will do that. And I think he will, if it is Justin Fields, I think he'll use that, the play action, the rollout. I think he'll use all that stuff to get Justin. But I think you're needing, if you're looking at, I think they're going to go probably free agent in terms of, like you talked about, a guy, no offense, a free agent. Both those tight ends are free agents from Seattle. Those are guys they can probably go and bring in to be nice compliments, veteran guys to complement Cole Kmet, instead of wasting a top 10 pick on a guy like Brock Bowers. So to me, is more like an H-back kind of guy who might go later on in the first round, not top 10 area.
And I want to also get your thoughts on Harbaugh being hired by the Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers. JP, what are your thoughts on that?
So my first thought, my immediate thought is Jim Harbaugh's on Twitter is @Coach Jim for UM. Can he change that? Can he change the Coach Jim for LA?
Yeah.
It doesn't really have the same ring to it. It doesn't have the same Coach Jim for UM. I think they're gonna have to change. Something's gonna have to change here to get it to rhyme. But overall, I think this is a good move for the Chargers. I think they needed to bring in somebody who could have at least a modicum of success in the NFL. I mean, Jim Harbaugh, even if you just don't want to look at the stuff that he did at Michigan, which he was phenomenal at Michigan. I mean, he brought them a national title. Like, that's something, like, he did everything.
Did we lose JP?
He did everything he said he was going to do at Michigan. You can look at the Connor Stallions cheating stuff, take that how you will, but he did do everything that he said he was going to do at Michigan. Yep. In San Francisco, he turned that team into a force on the West Coast. He runs a physical, downhill, attacking style of football, and then that defense is going to be extremely disciplined. I'm very curious to see who he hires as his coordinators. Of course, the immediate connection is Greg Roman, which
that's going to be horrible.
I don't know.
That's horrible for Herbert.
I don't know if this is going to work with Herbert in terms of what Greg Roman liked to do with his quarterback, but he has shown the ability to kind of coordinate other quarterbacks that are more like Herbert in terms of what they do, the play style. But defensive coordinator, he's got a lot of options. And I think bringing in Jesse Minter, his DC in Michigan, would be a phenomenal move. I love Jesse Minter. I love watching those Michigan defenses because they are the same style as Mike McDonald's Ravens, where all the pressures are so simple, but he makes them look complex, which is what you want to do defensively. You want to make everything simple for your guys and make it complex for everybody else. So that's something that he's done very well. Jesse Minter's done a great job of that. I'm really excited to see what he does at the defensive coordinator spot. If he gets that shot to be an NFL DC, I think he'd do really well there. I want to see what he does offensively. I'm very curious to see how he kind of meshes his tree offensively with what the Chargers currently have. I think this is also keying towards, I think Brock Bowers is also in play here at 6. So he might not even make it to Chicago at 9. He's going to be in play here because what Michigan did a lot was they were in 12, 13 personnel. Stanford, you think of everywhere Jim Harbaugh has been. They ran 12 personnel, 13 personnel, and they ran the pith out of the football. Bringing in a guy like Pep Hamilton who will work with Justin Herbert is fine. I think that's great. I wonder who's going to be the play caller. That's the big question I have. But outside of that, if he hires a good guy to call plays, I think I'm in.
Interesting. You're here first, guys. And I was pining for Jim Harbaugh to come to Chicago and be the Bears head coach. But obviously, other people at House Hall didn't agree. But I hear here first. Within 3 years, the Chargers will either have played a Super Bowl or have won a Super Bowl within 3 years of Jim Harbaugh's arriving there. He's a winner. The guy is going to win. He'll be weird and he'll leave in 6 years or 5 years, but he's going to win on his way out.
Yeah, I have no doubt about that. JP, what's with the samurai sword behind you?
Oh, these are from an anime that I watched, One Piece. They're
okay.
Swords from the
My son's a big fan of that, yeah. My son's a big fan.
I love having them. I saw them when I first moved to Orlando, and I'm like, I guess I got to buy these. So they are currently the centerpiece of my little bookshelf I got going on back here.
It looks very cool. It looks very cool. And you are very cool for sticking with us for almost an entire hour. Really appreciate you, JP. Again, let our fans know where they can find you on social media and read your work.
Of course, you can find me on Twitter at Acosta32_JP, at JP Acosta32 on Threads. I am the lead NFL draft writer for SB Nation, but I'm also a football writer. I have a column coming out every Friday called Establish the Fun. We're going to be dipping into the conference championships. Got some pretty fun stuff I got cooking up for you guys, but just follow, see what I'm doing, see what I'm watching.
And you're a pro wrestling fan too, huh?
100%. Yes, sir.
Wow. I took my nephews to watch a pro wrestling match about 15 years ago to the Allstate Arena. I said, never again. I was in there for 8 hours. It was like a TBS or TNT taping of one of their monster. And I just, oh man, it's taking forever to set up cameras and stuff. I said, never again. But I'm glad you like it. But I'm probably in the minority here. Never again.
It's great. I love it. They have a pro wrestling school here in about 30 minutes away from where I'm at. They had a free class last year for anybody to try. I went, and I was a pro wrestler for a day. I can certifiably tell you it hurts.
Yeah.
All it hurts.
Yeah, professional wrestlers have proven that to TV people whenever they have said to their face, yeah, it's all fake. And that Hulk Hogan will pick somebody up by the neck and toss them down to the floor. All right, JP, we'll let you go, and we'll be talking soon. Okay, brother?
Appreciate it. Thank you, JP.
Yes.
Okay, that is JP Acosta. He is the man. The man. Danny, anything that he said regarding a player, because I know that some of the players he mentioned are going to be on a segment we're going to do in a little while, which is your top 10 players that you want to look at the Senior Bowl. And then next week we'll add more to that list. But anything that's really stood out that you want to make a comment in before we switch subjects here?
Well, I mean, I think we've covered Latu enough here with UCLA. He's, like I said, he's going to probably end up being my top rated player in Mobile next week, because I think he's a top, top of the first round kind of guy. I love the motor. I love the way he plays. He could be he could rush from a 2-point stance, standing up. He could put his hand on the ground, be a base defensive end. Plays just as hard versus the run as the pass. Like I said, a hands technician, probably the best hands technician I've seen come out since Joey Bosa came out. So this guy has it and in the last 2 years, has dominated the Pac-12 in terms of his numbers, in sacks and everything like that. The biggest question with him is going to be his medicals, and that's not going to be answered until the combine and when the teams get the records and then their doctors can go and poke and pry him and see what's going on, because that's a huge question mark right there. The neck, obviously the reason he retired 2 years ago, he was at Washington, like I said earlier, if you guys didn't catch it, had to retire because of a neck injury. 5 doctors, wouldn't clear him. They said that, he's a chance to, God forbid, get paralyzed on the football field if he played again. So he retired for a year. I didn't follow in terms of what happened after that. Then he came back to UCLA, transferred to UCLA, and the last 2 years has been playing lights out. So that's the biggest thing. If his medical's clear, he's a top 10 pick, like I said earlier, all day for me. But the thing is, you want to know if this player, God forbid, is he gonna make it? That the biggest thing is, will he make it to a second contract? But now it's like, if this is something that earlier in his career that doctors wouldn't clear him because he could get paralyzed, that is huge, and NFL teams have to look into that. But that's the only thing that I think would stop him from being a top 10 pick. So I think we kind of discussed it. And his comp, JP's comp was Watt, JJ Watt, and my comp for him is more Aiden Hutchinson from the Lions. A guy that can be, a motor, high motor guy, high effort guy that can rush from a 2-point stance, can drop back as well. And I think Aiden Hutchinson is the kind of comp. And imagine having Aiden Hutchinson opposite a Montez Sweat. Now you're talking about this defensive line really coming together.
Yeah, indeed. All right, great stuff. Great stuff. Our next segment is the guys over at OnTapSports.com are doing a great job of covering sports, all Chicago sports, and including the Bears and the NFL draft. Quinten Krzysko is one of their top draft scouts. who writes a column, and he recently wrote about Troy Fautanu. And so I asked him if he wouldn't mind coming on and giving us a scouting report on the Washington offensive lineman.
Jack's best in the NFL as an offensive guard, according to certain people. I think there's a chance he could stay at offensive tackle. He has the size, he has the length, the arm length to stay at tackle if you want him to, and I think he has the athleticism too as well. Where I'd really notice his athleticism is in pass protection, his lateral steps, his ability to cover ground out on the corner is impressive, but the reason why he's really being projected inside is the mental processing, the technique, the fine details of playing on the edge that you have to have hammered down and that you don't really need the same way in the interior. You can see him get over aggressive at times, get out of position. He's a high motor guy, so he's always moving. And sometimes that's detrimental to players, especially at offensive tackle, where your positioning, your body positioning, the angles that you're setting up are really important. And so really the idea with him kicking inside to guard is more about his play style and that's hyperactivity that you see on his tape, less than his actual physical ability to stay at tackle. When Braxton Jones goes down, you can kick this guy out to tackle and feel okay about it. Yeah, I'm just not sure he's a guy that you want to be saying as this is our franchise offensive tackle out here. This guy has bad intentions on every snap, a finishing demeanor, that mentality that he just wants to put you in the dirt. And I think a big part of that, of having that finishing attitude, is having the imposing grip to be able to do it. And that's something that Fautanu has as well, where once he latches onto you, he ain't letting go until either you're going to force him to get a holding penalty or he's putting you in the dirt. That's kind of what he tries to do out there. He has the strength, he has the grip to really just drive you out of running lanes, to put you where he wants you to be. There are occasions where he is hesitant and you might not see the athleticism flash for all it can be, but then there's times where it shows out and you go, wow, that guy can move. He can get lateral, he can get vertical, he can go cover a bunch of space on a pole. So the athleticism is there. It's just matching the mental processing up with the athleticism for it to reach its full potential. The thing that he really did well in run blocking, I thought, was on pin and pull stuff was really where you saw him do really well as a run blocker outside of the pulling. It does show me he has the power to be able to kick inside and handle those interior defensive linemen. Even, on all those reps, he's not getting an ear hole. He's not cracking the guy. There are some times where they see it coming and he's still handling the guys just fine. But the difference-making aspect is him as a puller, which I think he'll get more opportunities to do as an offensive guard than he does as a tackle. His ability to take lateral steps, he has really active feet and really active hands. Sometimes his hands don't have a purpose, though, which, activity's great. You'd love to see guys who don't get stuck with their hands. But I'd like to see him grow his purpose a little more as to why his hands are active, as to why, right now he's just kind of the Tasmanian devil out there. You'd like to see him bring more purpose to say, I am, taking away his hands before they can get inside, and then he has to find another way to beat me, as opposed to just I'm punching. I love how active his feet are when he's cutting outside and then covering back inside, but sometimes he gets too far. He gets too active. He gets too it's almost like for quarterbacks, you talk about happy feet. I feel like he gets a little bit of happy feet in where he's trying to anticipate what the rusher's going to do in front of him before it happens, and that can get him in trouble sometimes. As I mentioned, he has the athleticism to stay at tackle. He has the arm length to stay at tackle. It's just a question of, can he bring that hyperactivity, more purpose to the hyperactivity that he has in pass protection? I think he's probably going in the top 50 as an offensive guard. And this is one of the things that gets kind of weird with this, because my film grade says top 100, but my film grade is at offensive tackle, not at offensive guard. So you have to try and project this a little. And right now, my film grade, it's just a pure plus minus system. once we get closer to the draft, I'll refine it a little more down to more of my opinion along the lines of my grading system. But just based purely on my grading system as an offensive tackle, it's top 100. I think at offensive guard, this athleticism and size and length with the versatility to kick out to tackle when you need him to, you should be looking at least at a top 75 player, if not a top 50 player. He made the honor roll in 2020, so you got a guy who can handle the mental side of the game a little more, who is capable of learning. I think his scheme fit, I think he's pretty versatile, but coming out of Washington, I think a pass-heavy attack would be the easiest transition for him, especially like a West Coast offense where you don't have to hold up blocks for too long and you can just focus on wearing down your opponent. I mean, this offensive line this year, I think especially, they really started to build an identity around Tevin Jenkins. I mean, it became clear as the season was going that when Tevin was out on the field, that offensive line played differently. They had a different attitude to them. They had a certain cockiness to them, and just that mean demeanor of wanting to make the opponent's D-line pay, which is awesome to see. And I think between Tevin Jenkins and Darnell Wright, you really started to see that become an identity of the group and something that Troy Fautanu really fits in with, I think. My name is Quinten Krzysko. You can find my work over at ontapsportsnet.com, where we are covering as many draft prospects as we can this year.
You're on mute, Aldo.
Good. You didn't hear me mispronounce his name. Thank you, Quinten. Danny, what are your thoughts on Troy?
Yeah, Quinten made some good points. Some points I agree with, but there's some things that I don't agree with. And you guys have followed me all these years. I'm a big proponent for my tackles have to have the arm length, right? The necessary arm length. And he's going to have, I believe I was told sub 33-inch arms, right? Or if he's in 33, it's right on the border of that. And for me, even watching some of those highlight tapes of him, his pass sets his technique is all over the place, right? There's times where you see him balance and he gets to a set point quickly enough to be, meaning that he has the athletic ability to play left tackle, but then he lets the guy into his chest, into his torso, and gets controlled and walk back. So to me, a lot of times, and that's the arm length, not being able to shoot your arms and keep the guy off your body. The other thing is you'll see a lot of times when he's trying to reach and get to a defender who's gone off to him, he doesn't have the length to go in and touch him and push him and get him off his pattern. So for me, Troy is a guy that's going to kick inside the guard. In a pinch, could he play left tackle for you? If your left tackle goes down, he moves up. Yeah, he can do that. But as a full-time thing, moving over, for his career, I think he's an inside left guard. Again, 2-year starter. He's played both left tackle and left guard for Washington. He's a people mover. This is a guy, he's a physical guy. He's nasty. He's got a nasty, a temperament. He'll finish his blocks. Good lower body strength. Will get on there and drive defenders off their spots. Again, pass pros are solid sometimes, so that's inconsistent, but that can be coached up, right? That thing to me is the fact that, and it's been proven time and time again, there are some here and there that do get away playing left tackle with sub 34, 35-inch arms. But I think with this case, I think his best spot is going to be kicked inside to left guard, and I think he has potential to be a really damn good left guard going in the future.
Would you entertain the idea of bringing in a guard? Let's say, Troy, we acquire a second-round pick or 2 second-round picks, and Troy is there. And given Tevin Jenkins' injury history and the excusable but yet ineffective play by Nate Davis, and I say excusable because of the death in his family and so forth and injuries, would you consider bringing in a guard in round 2 who can play multiple positions? And then, as Quinten said, if Braxton Jones goes down, you've got an emergency guy. If you don't have a viable swing tackle on the roster, you can move Troy Fautanu out there. And would you consider that?
I will always consider bringing in talented offensive linemen and defensive linemen. You can never have enough offensive and defensive linemen, although that's where the team gets built. And for me, and I know you said in terms of Nate Davis with the family stuff, but that was early in preseason, right? I mean, we're talking about week 17, week 18. He's getting mauled out there. So, I mean, Nate Davis to me was a Frasian flop. I mean, I thought there are times middle of the season where he had some nice production, especially in the run game. I think him teamed with Darnell Wright, but I think it was too inconsistent for me. So I'm not sure what the contract status is, if there's a lot of dead cap money, if you cut him or release him. But if you get a kid like a Troy Fautanu, and then you bring him in at left guard next to Braxton Jones, you move Tevin Jenkins over to right guard. Tevin Jenkins, when he played right guard next to Darnell Wright, that side was dominating on the right side, those two together. So I think your best position would be to put Tevin Jenkins at right guard, have him team up with Darnell Wright, and have those big nasty guys on the right side, and then run your offense, or your run action game behind those guys. And if you bring a kid like this that's talented and can play left guard, now you do a good job of solidifying your offensive line as well. So yes, I am open to, right now center is the main weak link for me. That's what I'm going to be concentrating on in terms of the draft, in terms of free agency. But if you can get an upgrade at guard and kick Tevin over to right guard, I would definitely do that as well.
Excellent. All right, well, let's concentrate now on the 10 players that you have chosen that you're going to focus on during Senior Bowl week. You've got access to the practice tape, and of course, you'll look at the game tape, and then after the game, you'll report back here on these 10 players and other players, and then tell us how, what you feel about them. The first player we've talked at length about, so I'm not sure how much more we need to talk about, but it is the UCLA defensive end edge rusher, Latu. Did I pronounce that correctly?
I believe so. Yeah, you did a good job there. Yep. I mean, like I said, this guy is going to probably be my highest rated guy at the Senior Bowl this week. So, I think we've already covered him, both myself and JP. So I think we can move on to the next guy.
Excellent. Justin, and this one I'm going to have trouble with. Ibo Jibe.
It's actually pronounced Eboy B.
Okay. So the G is silent.
Yeah.
Eboy B. So 6'5", 292-pound defensive lineman from Alabama. Go ahead.
Yeah. Justin is a guy we talked about, Latu and his injury in the past. Justin is a 5-star athlete coming out of high school out of Georgia, chose Alabama over schools like Georgia, Florida, Arkansas, Tennessee, so on and so forth. In 2022 suffered a neck injury that curtailed this season, and just this past year was his first time really being fully healthy. So that's why he's really a 1-year starter. And then he came out and had his best season: 11.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks. I go and watch Alabama's guys, and then I'm looking at the edge guys, right? I'm looking at Chris Braswell, I'm looking at DJ Turner, but the guy that keeps catching my eye is 92. And Justin is a guy, solid size, length, thick. He's about 6'4", 290 pounds. He played up and down that defensive line for Alabama. He's played some defensive end. He played some nose tackle. I think he's a guy that, that a lot of two gapping there in Alabama. I think he's a guy that if you play him at the 1 technique, or if you play him at a 3 technique in this system and give him the opportunity to get upfield, hit those gaps and get up there, I think he can make a difference, right? He had 7 sacks last year, which was his career high. Again, solid power at the line of scrimmage, can control blockers, has a good solid get out for a guy, especially, 290 some pounds. It's solid converting speed to power. So right now he's not a technician with his hands, but he's more of a guy that can just basically bully offensive linemen back into the quarterback's lap. Can play base end at Alabama. For me, he's more of a 3 technique, solid 1 technique possibly, but a guy's going to be inside in the middle. Can take on double teams, maintain his ground. We saw when they did some lateral movement on him in terms of some zone blocks, he was able to get skinny, penetrating between the guard and the center, and get into the backfield and make an impact on the run game. So 11.5 tackles for loss. This is a guy that to me is just going to get better, right? He doesn't have the quick twitch that I normally look for in my 3 techniques, but the one thing I learned from the last couple of drafts with Eberflus and what he's looking for his interior guys, he wants size, he wants athletic guys, and he wants physical and nasty guys. He's not looking for those Aaron Donald, Tommy Harris types in this type of defense. He's looking for guys that, obviously if you have those guys with the size, you'll love them, but he's looking for guys that are big, physical, the length. And I think this is Justin fits that criteria as a guy that's going to be 6'5", long arms, 292 pounds. You could probably put another 10 pounds on him, make him 300 pounds. And again, he'll go in that rotation there. Justin Jones is a veteran that's a free agent. So that, that could be a nice rotation there with the two young guys from last year and a kid like this. That's a nice foundation there inside the middle of that defensive line. So Justin is a guy I really like. I had him pegged early on as maybe a third round, fourth round guy, but I'm hearing a lot of things about him. I think this guy has a potential. If it goes down into Mobile, has a great week, he could go second round.
Excellent. I love the idea, that of Eberflus's defense of collapsing that pocket right into the face of the opposing quarterback. And if this guy can add to that, we should make him a target. And by the way, Danny, you do such a great job of evaluating these players. It gets me all fired up. I want to fire up the tape and start looking at them for myself. Great job. And the next guy, number 3 on the list, is Byron Murphy, the second, 6'1", 308 pounds, 21-year-old defensive lineman out of Texas.
Yeah, the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year this past season. Now, this guy is more of the 3 technique you'd think of when you look at the traditional Tampa 2 defense. He's a quick twitch guy. Now he's got some good weight on him. It's there 308, but I think he's going to come in under 300 pounds when he's weighed in at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine as well. It's probably 297, right around 300. Around 6 feet. So, he might not have the arm length and the size we just talked about, what Eberflus might like, but he's a guy that's got the quick lateral agility, thick lower body. He's a guy that is able to take on double teams and stand his ground, but also has the quickness. If you allow him to go ahead and hit that gap and get upfield, he's got the ability to penetrate and make a difference in the backfield. Last year was his best year, 5 sacks, 8.5 tackles for loss. But again, a lot of times he was misused as a 2-gap guy. He was a guy, his first step was lateral, not upfield. And I think if you give him that chance to go ahead and just hit it upfield, get up there after the quarterback, he's a guy I think at the pro level could be a much better, much more impactful pass rusher than what we saw at Texas. So this is a guy, one-on-ones. This guy and some of these offensive linemen, keep an eye on him. He's gonna probably make a couple highlight reels this next week.
Love it. And then you mentioned earlier Jordan Morgan. This is a guy who, as the year went on, his draft stock went up. The 6'5" offensive tackle out of Arizona. And again, I didn't include arm length or any of that stuff because we'll do that once the Combine gives us those official numbers that are taken by one person. And so there's consistency. One of the things I learned from Greg Gabriel is that from organization to organization or event to event, when they do these measurements, they sometimes do them differently. And so,
right.
Some guy could have a 35-inch arm length, and then he goes to the Combine and it's 33.5. So
right, it shrunk or it got longer. It all depends. But right. The NFL uses the Combine as the end all be all in terms of the official length and all that stuff. But Morgan, I love this kid. I mean 6'5", 312 pounds. He's a guy that's a 3-year starter. Started 37 games at left tackle for Arizona. Size, length, feet to play left tackle in the NFL. Has got the length, in my opinion. Solid lateral agility. Can shuffle, slide in pass protection, mirror defenders. Good balance. Agility for someone again that big, that size. Plays with good leverage and then drives defenders off their spot in terms of on run blocking. Can pull and run in space as a lead blocker. We talked about Jacob Owing, counting that receiver I was looking at, and we'll talk about him later on. But he's a guy. A lot of times you see him out. Jordan Morgan here out in the open and leading as a lead blocker. So he's got the athletic ability. He's got the starting experience. I think he's got the feet. Some I've talked to think he might be a right tackle eventually, maybe even kicked inside the guard. But I think he's a guy that get given an opportunity. Now there's some technique stuff you got to go ahead and fix with him, right? Get stood up a lot of times. He needs to play better with leverage in terms of keeping his pad level down. But he's got to get coached up, right? So he may not be a day one starter. But again, if you're the Bears, you're looking to bring in a guy that, we talked about right now, potentially moving Tevin Jenkins to the right guard. If you bring in a Jordan Morgan, he could be your left guard until he, gets all cried up. And if Braxton Jones doesn't work out at left tackle, you can kick this kid out to left tackle and then replace that left guard position. So Jordan Morgan is a guy, again, he's probably looking at second. I've heard first round, but I think that might be a little bit too rich for him. He might go lower first round, but I'm thinking right now, it's early on in the process, but I think second round is probably where you're looking at Jordan Morgan go.
Do you think J2K asked? Do you think Jordan Morgan is better, an upgrade over Braxton Jones?
J2K, that's a good question. I mean, as of right now, I'd say no because Braxton Jones played 2 seasons in the NFL, so that experience counts for a lot in my book. So I think I would not come in and say, all right, Jordan Morgan, you're replacing Braxton Jones if you drafted Jordan Morgan. But if you go through camp and you see Jordan Morgan's outplaying Braxton Jones, I have no problem with swapping them out. Or like I said, start him off inside a guard, and then let him kind of get his feet wet in the NFL. And then eventually, if you see Braxton Jones continue to struggle, not developing like you want, kicking Jordan Morgan out to left tackle. Like I said, 37 career starts, 3-year starter, Arizona, all at left tackle. This kid, I think, has the size, the feet, and the length to be a left tackle in the NFL.
Excellent. We move on to the tackle from BYU, Kingsley. I'll give this a try. Suama Teaea.
JP talked about him again. Another just a mammoth, a man, 6'5", 6'6", 320 some pounds. 5-star high school recruit coming out of Oregon, committed actually to Oregon. Was recruited by Alabama, Florida, a lot of LSU, the big power schools, and he ended up going to Oregon. Transferred from Oregon, went to BYU in 2022. Now he's got some versatility. He's played some left tackle, he's played some right tackle. 12 games of right tackle, 11 games of left tackle. So he's got the flexibility. So we're, again, we're bringing in. I'm giving you a prospect here to keep an eye on because that versatility could play in a big role. If you draft a kid like this, if he's available, like say in the second round, I don't think he'll make the second round. But again, if he makes it to the second round, this guy gives you versatility where if the left tackle doesn't work out, Braxton Jones, he could play there. For whatever reason you want to kick down out, right inside to right tackle, he could play right tackle. So again, a guy with this size, that length, the athletic ability, only 21 years old. I think he goes in the first round because guys this big, this athletic don't usually end up in the second round. But if you can get your hands on it, Bears don't have a second round pick right now, but I'm talking about keep your eye on this guy because this guy's, you're going to see this name rising up draft boards as we get closer and closer to the draft.
Danny, there seems to be some feeling in the chat by some that you're giving up on Braxton Jones. No. Clarify that, please.
No, I'm not giving up Braxton Jones, guys. I'm not giving up. I was just going through the list that players have accepted, invitations to the Senior Bowl and guys that I see as talents, right? So what we talk about Jordan Morgan as a possible left tackle. There are questions about Braxton Jones, right? Start off last year. I was one of his biggest fans coming into after his rookie season in terms of last year, and to start off really rough. All right. And actually the whole offense started rough. And then he got injured. He came back and he had some good moments and some good games, but then he had some really bad games, right? The Green Bay game the last week, it wasn't really good for Braxton Jones. The whole offense line really didn't play well. But if you can upgrade there and bring someone into a young guy to challenge him and get better, that's what you should be doing. That's what you should be looking to do, right? So, and maybe Braxton Jones gets kicked inside the guard. He could be your left guard, and then you have Jordan Morgan or Kingsley as your left tackle. So these are things you have to look at if you're Ryan Poles and the Bears and you're building this offensive line. Because remember, what's the model we always hear everyone say? The 5 best players, right? If the 5 best players are on the football field blocking your quarterback, you got to do that. And I'm not getting off Braxton Jones. But I'm just saying, if you bring in competition, sometimes the best way to get guys to play better is bring in a competition, light a fire under their ass.
Dobbsy wants to know, is there a chance that he could play the center position? He's a smart guy, but is his size almost too big?
Yeah, that's too big. That's too big, Dobbsy. I don't. He's like 6'5", 300 plus pounds. I don't see a center that big playing there. So no, I'd say Braxton Jones could possibly kick inside the guard if you wanted him to. But if you bring in a left tackle prospect, and there's going to be like 2 or 3 tackle prospects at number 9 in there, right? The kid from Notre Dame, and then also the Fautanu from Penn State. Those are guys that could potentially be starting a left tackle. So again, we'll see how the draft plays out. We'll see what happens. They stay at number 1, stay at number 9. They trade back, they trade up. I think it can play out. But if you can upgrade your position, especially at a premier spot like left tackle, and then maybe move Braxton Jones to left guard, or maybe make him a swing tackle. He's on a rookie contract. He's on a 5th round pick rookie contract. It's not going to kill your cap or anything like that. So, but as long as you're getting better, and I'm not giving up on Braxton Jones, but if you can get better, you got to get better.
Yep. All right, we continue with our list. And again, these are 10 players that Danny is looking forward to scouting at the Senior Bowl over the next several days. And he's going to add to this list on our next show. So, and then after the Senior Bowl, we'll talk about their play. So next up is wide receiver Brendan Rice, 6'3", 209 pounds. I found on the team's website. He's from USC and 21 years old. Your thoughts?
Yep, and we talked about him a little bit with JP as well. Obviously, the name kind of tells it all. He's Jerry Rice's son. If you put on the Caleb Williams tape, he's a number one target. He's a guy that intrigues me because of his size. 6'2", 200 pounds is what I'm thinking is going to come in at. Highly decorated prep star out of Arizona, played basketball, ran track, had a 10.78 100 meters time in high school, 21.84 in the 200 meters. So he's got some speed. And if you put on his tape, a 3-year start, I should say as well. I'll start off at Colorado State initially. That's where he went. I'm sorry, not Colorado State, but Colorado, and then transfer over to USC, a 2-year starter here at USC. And I'm looking for, and this is what I'm looking at, guys. I'm looking for the needs right now for the Bears. I'm looking for an edge rusher, a speed guy. It doesn't have to be a 6'4", 275-pound, prototypical defensive end. I'm looking for speed. I'm looking for twitch off the edge to complement Montez Sweat. That's the one thing. I'm looking then for receivers. I'm looking for multiple receivers. I'm looking for an X, which is typically the big body receiver, the guy that lines up close, on the line of scrimmage, and if they're pressed, he's got the ability to beat press coverage, because that's what they're missing. They got their Z with DJ Moore. They got their slot with potentially with Tyler Scott. I think they're looking for a big X guy. So that's one of the guys I'm looking for is a big X guy. And I think he fits the bill. And in terms of what I like about him is obviously the size, right? The size sticks out for me. Good speed, like I said, track athlete in high school. More of a straight line speed guy, not a guy that's going to zigzag and quick twitch and make guys and juke and make a move. But what I like about him as well is his ability, if you watch his tape, his ability to find holes in zone coverages and sit and make himself available, right? Big target, nice catch radius. He's a guy, again, that can extend away from his frame and reel in the catch. And I think that's important, whether it's Justin Fields here at quarterback or if it's Caleb or whoever they pick a number one. I think you need a big X receiver. And I think Brendan Rice gives you that ability with some of that deep speed that he can run, and also the ability to find holes in zone coverages and be open and give your receiver a nice big target in the middle of the football field.
Excellent. And by the way, your next guy, Marcus Jasant, I believe is the pronunciation. We're going to have a guest reviewer look at his play. He's a 6'2" wide receiver out of Georgia, and as Danny just said, a really good potential prospect at that X receiver position.
Yeah, the size sticks out. Obviously, 6'1", a 6'1", 6'2", 190 pounds. He's got a little bit of a thin frame, skinny legs, but he's got room to grow there, add some muscle there and get him bigger. 4-star high school prospect, also ran track and field, a 2-year starter. This is a guy that had high hopes for him at Georgia, right? But he had a gruesome ankle injury, broke his ankle on a touchdown catch in 2020, and it's kind of taken him some time to come back, but you put his tape on, and the one thing you can see is the acceleration, the ability to get off the line of scrimmage and get into his route pattern quickly. Again, big size, a guy that's got, I'd say he's probably going to run in somewhere in the 4.4s at the combine. So he's got that big play speed. I like the way that he extends away from his frame. He's a hands catcher. He's not a guy that's going to go ahead and cradle the ball into his body and use his body to go ahead and catch the football. So I think he's a guy that projects. He's a day 3 guy for me. He's not a guy you're going to see in the first 2 or 3 rounds. Day 3 guy that's got the skills, has got some tools. And then the other thing about him, that the first day I put on, he's playing at Kentucky, and there was a one play and he kind of jumped away from the pile, and I'm like, oh, this guy's got some George Pickens in him. But then you put on South Carolina, you put on other games, and he's out there, he's actually battling, he's actually blocking downfield. So he's a guy that will go ahead and give effort and be a blocker downfield. Now we talked about Shane Waldron coming in, looking for that big X. He's a guy, and one of the reasons he's going to need these guys to block. And then I think Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint is a guy that hasn't hit this potential yet. I think last year was his best year at 535 yards, averaging 15.7 yards per catch and 4 touchdowns. But I think, again, took us some time for him to come back from that injury. I think now he's finally hitting his stride. The quarterback play at Georgia was a little bit shaky up and down. It wasn't consistent as it was, the previous couple of years. But I think, again, just the ability to go ahead and, the size, the speed, the big play potential, I think this guy gives you that. And especially if you get him on day 3 of the draft, he could be someone who can come in here and fit in nicely.
And the next wide receiver on your list is Javon Baker. Again, 6'1". I couldn't find an age on him. I don't know if you have one, but over 200 pounds. He's from the University of Central Florida.
Yeah, it's funny because you there show him in the Alabama helmet, but he actually transferred.
Yes.
Four-star prospect, played at Alabama in 2020 and 2021, then for 21 games, and then transferred to UCF. And a 2-year starter there, led the Big 12 in receiving yards with 1,139 yards, and in yards per reception, almost 22 yards per reception, right? 6'1", 190, 7 touchdowns last year. Again, the kid averaged almost 22 yards per reception. Good height, arm length, gives you a nice, huge catch radius. Again, what I'm looking for here, guys, I'm looking for big play potential. I'm looking for size on the outside. He's a hands catcher. Again, another one that can go up and pluck the ball out of the air, can go up and make a play on those 50-50, contested catches. Hasn't stopped. This guy has some stop and go twitch in him. He's a guy that can make guys miss, some juke, after the catch. So it gives you some yak as well. So some yards after the catch. So, he's a guy to keep an eye on here as well. We'll see that these one-on-ones is where a lot of these receivers make their money, and we'll see him with that size, with that speed, and with the ability to make guys miss. I'm curious to see how he does here in Mobile, going against some of the better defensive backs here in the country.
Standing. You talked about him a little before with JP, and people in the chat room are talking about him now. Jacob Cowing, 5'11", 170 pounds, 22-year-old wide receiver out of Arizona. What do you got on him?
Yeah, again, this is the guy I comped to Zay Flowers, right? The rookie that is now doing good things for the Baltimore Ravens. Again, he's a guy that played his first 3 seasons at UTEP and then transferred over to Arizona. He's a first team. He's a 2-year starter at Arizona. Led the Pac-12 in receptions with 85 in 2022. Set the single season program record with 13 touchdowns, becoming the 22nd FBS player in history to record over 4,000 yards in his career. So this is a high volume, high production cat, right? And like we talked about with JP, he's a quick twitch guy. He's gonna be a slot guy. He's a little undersized, but again, quick, shifty slot type. It can be a weapon in space, a natural hands catcher. This is guy's instant acceleration off the line of scrimmage. Yak opportunities galore with this kid. We talked about, previously, get the ball in a playmaker's hands and get him in space. Jacob Cowing is a guy like that. So again, going back to last year and how Tank Dell kind of lit up that Senior Bowl, those practices, I think Jacob Cowing has that ability. He has that twitch, has that ability to kind of make some of those plays and make some of those highlight catches. And then we'll see how he goes from there. But again, I'm looking for the Bears to probably draft 2 receivers. Maybe bring another one in free agency, because you're gonna have to other than Tyler Scott and DJ Moore. Obviously, Mooney's a free agent. St. Brown's a free agent. If I'm missing somebody on the roster, guys, let me know. But I think you have to clear house on that roster, on that receiving core, and bring in some young talent. And I think an X and a kid like Jacob Cowing would be a nice way to whether it's Justin or if it's a new quarterback, to kind of incorporate them into the system.
What are your expectations for Tyler Scott in 2024?
Well, I want to see him take the next step, right? For me, I thought he was going to be that big, deep, big play guy down the middle of the football field and out of the slot. Obviously, that didn't turn out to be. Had some inconsistencies down the stretch, some drop passes he should have caught. The one in Cleveland sticks out to me. The one in Detroit sticks out to me as well, where he stopped on that route. But then he made some nice plays as well down the in the middle of the season. So get consistent, get better. Obviously, he's a guy that's a little light in the pants. He's going to have to get bigger, stronger. And I see him more as a slot guy. And one thing is, some of these big guys I talked about is you can line them up in the slot, whether it's, Rice, whether it's the kid from Georgia. All those guys can line up in the slot, and you can get them going as well. And hopefully with Shane Waldron coming in here, he'll be a little more creative with some of the weaponry that they could put around the quarterback. And now we see some big plays here, not only from the receivers, but also the tight ends and running backs too.
Okay, we go back to the trenches for number 10 on your list, and that's Graham Barton. 6'6" is what I found on him, 315 pounds, 22-year-old offensive lineman from Duke. What do you got?
Yeah, actually, I think they're coming a little lighter. They come kind of like 6'4", 314. This guy's a 3-year starter. Started at guard for 6 games. I'm sorry, at center 6 games as a freshman, and is playing predominantly the rest of the time at left tackle for Duke. Over 40 starts in his career. He's very durable. All ACC first team selection and academic all ACC. And this is a guy, as I talked with JP, he's a guy that has played left tackle, but he's going to kick inside, right? He can play guard, he can play center, and this is where I see him at. I see him as a center, and he's a guy, again, 3-year starter, quick feet, natural knee bender, possesses the balance and lateral agility you're looking for, especially in this type of blocking scheme. With the Waldron hiring, the big, assumption is they're going to keep that wide zone, stretch offense, and then you need those athletic linemen that can block laterally and keep their blockers, at bay. Strikes with his hands, active hands, shoots them quickly in pass protection. Maintains his block, stays engaged while moving laterally. We just talked about. Rangy and fluid in pass protection. He's quick out of his stance. Can get to his set spot real quick. And again, this is all seeing him play as a left tackle, but I'm projecting him inside, hopefully at center. And I think this is where you can kind of build your center here, your building block here of your offensive line with a kid like Graham Barton. Now he played center for, like I said, 6 games as a freshman. So he might need some time to reacclimate to that. So you might have to bring in a veteran to kind of guide him through. But I think this is a guy, whether it's guard or center, I think he's a guy that is going to have a starting potential going to the next level here in the NFL. And the other thing is, guys, you know me, if I see a guy offensive lineman burying defensive lineman into the ground, that's nastiness. I love those guys, and Graham Barton will do that. And my bet is he's probably be one of the first guys that gets into a fight, into a scuffle at those Senior Bowl practices with those defensive linemen going in those one-on-one. So I love this kid just based off his tape. And again, I'm projecting him inside. He played left tackle. I see him more of an inside player, but keep an eye on Graham Barton in these practices at the Senior Bowl.
Great stuff, Danny. By the way, Danny, this afternoon I had the opportunity to talk to a wide receiver who I want to put on your radar if he's not already on there, and it's the kid from Holy Cross, Jaylen Coker. J2K knew about him, so I talked to him and put together this little 10-minute highlight of our conversation. All right, as promised, with me is Jaylen Coker from Holy Cross University. Jaylen, how are you?
I'm doing good. Great to be here.
Excellent. Are you excited about the upcoming All-Star game that you're going to be in? Tell me how you learned about it and what are you doing in preparation for it and so forth.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm totally excited. I was fortunate enough to play in the Hula Bowl this year.
Fade route.
There's Sanders into the corner of the end zone. The Holy Cross kid.
Coker caught. Did he catch it?
Yes, and that's a touchdown.
Wow. What a play by Coker.
Jaylen Coker.
I mean, he stuck that right hand. I think it was a pure one-handed catch.
Rolling on the field is a touchdown.
What a throw. And a catch. I mean, it's just a fade route to the end zone here. Oh, my.
Ooh.
Wow.
There's no review in this.
I don't know, but I mean, regardless, what a catch.
Wow.
So to go to another one, the Shrine, this week is going to be awesome. I mean, I heard about it. I just got my agent told me about a little, like, one of the people from the Shrine came up and was like, hey, we want you to come to the game. So then I had the opportunity to play and I obviously accepted. So that was big. And then another, like how I've been training, I've been down here in Florida, Fort Myers. I've been training with Jordan and his team at X3. So I've been trying to get ready, get my body right for the All-Star game and the pro day as well.
So what exactly do you do in order, as you said, to get your body ready for an All-Star game? And then how is that different for getting ready for the combine?
Well, I think getting ready for the All-Star game, really, it's more about like receiver work, like more catching the ball in traffic, making sure your hands are in the right place, feet are in the right place, just kind of the smaller things to train for the All-Star game. And then for the combine, it's more like, you obviously like stretching and all that comes into play, strength training, we're working the 3-cone, the 40 starts, all that stuff. You want to really do the testing well so that you can, do your best whenever that time comes. So I feel like they all kind of mix together really well, which is something that, X3 does a great job of. So
Indeed. Self-scout yourself. Tell me what are your strengths and what are the things that you want to work on so that you'll be prepared at the next level of the NFL?
Yeah, well, I think my strengths, definitely my hands. I feel like I'm very confident I can catch the football very well. My ability to go up and get it, like when it's up in the air, like I'm not thinking about, I gotta, it's my ball. So I'm going to go up and get it. And then things I need to work on, I feel like it's really really just my route running. I feel like I could be more savvy with my route running, have a little bit more in my bag, you could say. And I feel like that just comes with, repetition and, just continuing to practice and work my game.
We're looking at highlights that were posted on YouTube by the YouTube channel Prospects. And boy, you are a dangerous wide receiver. I mean, over and over again, you're making these outstanding catches deep downfield. And I agree with you. Your hands look excellent. What's your mental approach when a play like this is called to go deep? What's your mental approach to attacking defenses?
I guess put speed on them. I feel like that's a big thing, especially if the DB's off a little bit. You want to have them, you don't want them to be comfortable. You want to, make them uncomfortable, which then you can use that to your advantage. So I feel like just putting speed on them early, being really quick, twitchy with your movements, and just be decisive. I feel like that's what I try to utilize the most.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about route running. We hear all the time receivers coming out of college have to learn, the NFL route tree because it's limited in college. Would you say that's the same for you?
Nah, I don't think it was limited for me. I feel like that I was running everything that was like really you can run. I feel like, you watch some of this stuff, I'm running corners, posts, hitches, goes, screen passes. I'm doing pretty much everything. So I really feel like the routes that I do run are good, and I'm glad that I was given the ability to, be able to run all those routes. But I feel like just touching them up, making sure that I can get to certain break points differently, like working before the route starts, like just to give DBs a different look so it's not the same.
Mm-hmm. I looked at your stats, and I think you scored at least one touchdown in every game except one this past season. Outstanding work. Your biggest game from a touchdown perspective was the 3-touchdown game against Yale. I cut together some clips of the first 2 touchdowns. Take me through this one-on-one matchup you have with the DB and what you were thinking and how you executed this play.
Yeah, so I cut down my split so I could have a lot more room to the outside. It wasn't a great release for me. I feel like he played it really, really well, honestly. But I feel like Sluka really put me in a good place to where only I can make the catch. So he helped me out on this one. But, not my best one, but definitely, still a touchdown.
Absolutely. Now, this is the second touchdown that I've got coming up in this highlight clip. Take me through this one.
Yeah, so it was another fade in the goal line, but he kind of was playing like above, like over the top. So I decided, if he's going to play up there, I'm just going to sit it down and then hope that he just throws me back down, which he did. So I could be a little bit more decisive on it, though. I kind of roll into it. It kind of gives the DB a chance to come back. So if I put my hips quicker, I feel like it'll be more decisive and he won't have the ability to come down on it. But again, another touchdown.
All right. At this point of the season, it's always difficult to get an accurate assessment on height and weight. Tell me, how tall are you? What is your weight? And what do you anticipate you're going to run in the 40?
I'm 6'1". I'm 215. I anticipate to run low 4.5 to high 4.4.
Excellent. I've seen 6'3", I've seen 6'2", and so forth. So it's all, those things are always exaggerated by some of the evaluators, but it's good to know you've got the height and speed for a position that the Chicago Bears are desperately in need of. They need someone to play opposite DJ Moore. What do you know about the Chicago Bears, and what do you know about DJ Moore? And is that a team that's maybe on your list of potential teams to play for in the NFL?
Well, to talk about that, I'd play for any team that took me, I feel like, whatever team picks me, they're going to get a good player and a hard worker. So I'm just, whatever team takes a chance on me, I'll be happy with.
Mm-hmm.
But no, DJ Moore, my dad was a Carolina Panthers fan. So, he was watching DJ Moore all the time, and he's a freak. He's ability to catch the ball, route running. I feel like he's just always open. So, that's definitely something that's helped the Chicago Bears out a lot.
Yeah.
But, I feel like the Bears, they've been struggling a little bit recently. But, I feel like, me, DJ, I feel like we could get it done. Get some wins for you guys for sure.
I have that same feeling that you guys would be a really good combination. Tell me a little bit about what you like to do in your free time.
Yeah, I mean, I like to play basketball. I love hooping. I feel like every time I go back home from whether that's college or if I'm leaving from somewhere else coming back, I feel like we're always playing basketball. Just normal stuff. I draw a little bit. I love watching movies, video games, really chill guy, nothing really going on, honestly.
Very cool. That's excellent. Well, listen, good luck at the All-Star games. Good luck with your preparation for the combine, and good luck in the draft. And if you become a member of the Chicago Bears, don't forget us. We'd love to talk to you again. But wherever you end up, any one of the 32 teams, lots and lots of success. Of course, not so much success against the Bears, but lots and lots of success to you. It's really nice of you to take some time to talk to us.
No, of course, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
What do you think, Danny? Impressive young man, right?
Yeah, very, very impressive young man. Yeah, I mean, I looked up his stats. I had not seen him, but yeah, I mean, 15 touchdowns. Like they said, the only game he didn't score a touchdown was against Boston College, but over 1,000 yards receiving, and he fits the criteria what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an X, right? I'm looking for a guy 6'1", 6'2", 215 pounds, and if he runs a high 4.4 or a low 4.5, I think he's that's a really great a good time for him. So obviously with highlights, you see the size, his ability to go up and make a play on those contested balls, the hand, he's a hands catcher. So I think he's a guy that he got a chance, even if he doesn't get drafted. If he gets into a camp as an undrafted free agent, all you need is a shot. And we've seen tons of guys make it as undrafted free agents. So yeah, definitely an intriguing player. And the fact that he got called up to the East West Shrine game is definitely a good sign for him. So, because a lot of times scouts actually tell the runners, in this case, Eric Galco of the East West Shrine, that hey, we saw this guy at the Hula Bowl, and we want him to come up here and play against some little better competition at the East West Shrine game. So, yeah, definitely, it's definitely a good sign. So, NFL scouts he's got their attention, and they're asking to see him. So that's definitely a positive sign for the kid.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to him shining at the Shrine Bowl game, and we'll talk more about him after that game, and we'll keep an eye on his career. I hope to interview more prospects like that. It's always a joy, and unfortunately this year, Danny and I are not going to get a chance to go down to Mobile, which was always a joy for us to team up and interview players down there. Now, Coach T is going down there, and he'll issue a report to us on this show in the future and sometime in February. So that's great. Danny, before we say goodbye, I wanted to get your thoughts on Shane Waldron and what potentially he can add to this team. We heard JP Acosta talk about the two tight end formations that he's going to use, and I'm sure that excited you.
Yeah. That's for sure. And that's the thing is, of the 9 names that are reported that they supposedly interviewed, Waldron was right there. Him and Clint Kubiak were my top 2 guys, right? And Waldron got a little bit of the favorable pick there because of the fact that he's done it. He's actually called plays for 3 seasons in the NFL, and he's had some moderate success. And the other thing I like about him is the fact that he's been a play caller is that he's dealt with 2 epic quarterbacks, right? He's taken Russell Wilson in his first year there in Seattle, and Russell Wilson made the Pro Bowl under him. And then he took Geno Smith, a guy that everyone had just kind of like thought as a career backup, just hanging on in the league, and he made him into a Pro Bowl. So he's 2 different kind of quarterbacks. Russell, the more athletic, the guy that can hold on to the ball and move around and not be a timing quarterback. And then he made him into a Pro Bowler, and then he took the more of the even though Geno is not a statue back there, he's got some wheels there, but he's more of a pocket quarterback, and he made him into a Pro Bowl quarterback. So that is very, very impressive. That is what I like. The fact that he bases his game, his play action, his passing game, I should say, off of play action with the quarterback under center for a majority of the time, not all the time, but a majority of the time, and uses those 12-man, 13-man personnel like we talked about with JP, excites me, because that's what I was begging for Luke Getsy to do. So that's the thing is, like, Luke Getsy came in here, and going back to Waldron real quick, obviously I like the experience. He's been with Bill Belichick in New England, right? I think he started off actually with Scott Pioli in the front office. And I think that's a connection there that Ryan Poles and Waldron have is Scott Pioli. So start off there. So he's done the personnel stuff. Then he went to work with McVay in Washington as I think quality controls coach. And then from there he followed McVay to LA where he was tight ends coach, and he was a quarterbacks coach, and he was a passing game coordinator. So he's worked with different kinds of quarterbacks. He worked with Jared Goff. He's worked with Kirk Cousins. He's worked with pocket type quarterbacks. He's worked with, like I said, with Russell Wilson, a more mobile quarterback. So that experience I love. Obviously he's going to need some weapons here, right? I think Seattle last year his offense kind of got bogged down because of the fact that the offensive line was a little banged up, and they were playing with a bunch of backups last year. But to remember, he went into Dallas and almost beat Dallas, and they probably should have beat Dallas, right? And when Dallas was undefeated at home, so he has a way of attacking, designing offenses that can play to the strengths of his players. And attack opposing defenses. And that's something that we didn't see here with Luke Getsy. We kept saying, play to the strengths of your players. You're a running team. Embrace it. He'd have one game where the Bears rush for almost 200 yards. And then next thing you know, next week, they're only rush for 70 yards. So that's the thing is this is a guy that I think will take what he has, whether it's Justin, whether it's, Caleb Williams or whoever they select. And I think he'll build the offense to that player's strengths. And I think he's adaptable. And I think we could see, game plans, we'll still see the base in terms of the wide zone, inside zone, and all that stuff. But I think we'll see game plan tailored to not only the opponent, but also what the quarterback and the playmakers that are available to him on a weekly basis, what they do best. You're muted.
I did it again. That's 2 in this one show. So I'm going to fine myself $25 for that. I've got names from people in the chat so that you can scout for future shows. I've got names from J2K. I've got names from let's see, Larry T and B Shep. So all those names that you guys have submitted, and J2K actually has a couple of submissions here. We're going to get to running backs at the Senior Bowl next week's show, J2K. But I do want you to field a couple of questions that did come in. And Vince asked, Danny, would you say that the offensive line is the easiest to project in the NFL? I think that's a really, really good question because it does seem like with the scouting tape that's available, that's probably the most focused on look that you can get. It's up, as close as you can get. Look at the offensive lineman, you can tell technique and so forth. Do you think that's easiest to project in the NFL?
It's I don't know if any position is really the easiest to project, but what you could do with the offensive line, it gives you some ability, right? You talked about, there are certain fundamentals you look for. You look for, there's types. There's the size, the length, the point on contact power. Is this a guy that's more athletic? Is he a guy that's more a power based guy? So you have to kind of fit the scheme and see what he does best, right? And then obviously, when you look at players like we've seen it before, where a guy gets drafted as a offensive tackle, but then his best position, he doesn't have the athletic traits that he might have had at college. And then that thing is a move him inside to a guard or sometimes even seen at center. But, that's the area in which you can go ahead and use some you can take a shot on a guy because of his physical traits, coach him up, and then next thing you'll plug him into the offensive line. So it's a position I love to scout. I love offense and defensive linemen because to me that's the base of your team. If your offense and defensive line sucks, guys, I've said this multiple times, your team's going to suck. So that's the base, that's the foundation of your team. And I love scouting those guys because, like I said, you see a scheme, right? And are you a power gap scheme? Are you a wide zone scheme? Are you an inside zone scheme? If you're a zone scheme, you need athletic guys that can move laterally. Now, if a guy is big, fat, and he can move guys off the line of scrimmage going forward, but he can't move laterally, he's not a fit for your scheme. So that's how you can kind of, get guys and scout them and then plug them into a spot. So I love scouting offensive and defensive line. But I don't know if it's the easiest to project, but it's definitely, if you miss at a tackle, you can kick him inside the guard. So there are other opportunities where you can go in and save your pick and not really waste it, if you will.
This is the perfect question to end this episode of Draft on Tap, our season premiere, and it comes from Zach Sullivan. And this might be actually too early to give him a cogent answer, but I'll throw it at you anyway. Can you summarize which position groups are deep and which are shallow this draft? So I won't hold you to this, given that we're still in the process of evaluating talent, then we could change our mind right before the draft. But how do you see this now, Danny?
Receiver, again, is a deep position. You're gonna have guys in the second, third round that are gonna come in and make impact right away. So to me, that's a deep position. Some of the other positions, I think offensive tackle is a position that you can find some guys in the second and third round. So I think a receiver and offensive tackle are positions you can find. The defensive tackle is a little bit scarce, right? Edge rushers, once you get past your first couple of guys, it gets a little dense there as well. So that's why I'm looking for guys that give that quick twitch. Might not be ideal, 4-3 defensive ends, but just give me pass rush. Give me something that can be situational where we can use them on. This team plays nickel for about 70% of their play. So they're down. So let's get a guy that can come in here and situational, be a pass rusher, and give me something out of that. So the edge rushers are not deep. Inside defense tackles are not deep. But for me, the deep positions right now, early on going through it, is receiver is loaded, and offense tackle is a pretty good deep position as well.
All right. I want to do a little tease of what's ahead. We've got these guest scouts coming in. Next week, we'll hear from Rob Paul. He will talk about Johnny Wilson, that huge receiver from, I think it's Florida State.
Yep.
We've got Jordan Silvera is going to provide us with a scouting report on J.J. McCarthy. So those are two of the guest scouts that are coming in. Jordan will also join us for a show so that he can debate Danny on the merits of drafting a safety in the first or second round. Are you ready for that, Danny?
I hope we're done with that, but you never know. There's Eddie Jackson's status on the team is a little up in the air right now. So,
that's right.
But Jordan's a big JJ McCarthy fan, and I'm not. So we're gonna go back and forth on that one.
Oh, love it. And as for in-show guests, besides Jordan joining us, we've got Noah Chang, who is a scout for the Big 12 and NWC. He's going to join us next week. We're going to talk Shrine Bowl and a bunch of other players. And I've got soft commitments from a number of other people. So we're going to offer you a robust draft on tap with many different diverse set of voices. And of course, at the center of everything is Danny Shimon with his relentless attack on scouting as many players as possible for your education. Jordan's got a message here. He says, that's going to be great. Would love to debate JJ McCarthy. That's going to be fun.
Oh, Jordan, here we go.
It's like a boxing promotion or something. All right, Danny, any final words?
No, it was a first show, and it was a heck of a show already. And it's just, like I said, week one, or our first show, and I've had a great time, and we're gonna get deeper and deeper into this, and obviously with free agency, once that starts, the Bears will make some signings, and then maybe we'll switch in terms of our needs, and maybe go to a different position or look at other things. But it's going to be an exciting off season, and today's show was a great way to start it off, and I'm excited to work with you, Jordan, and everyone else that jumps on and participate. Our listeners are terrific in terms of, I'm looking forward to seeing the names that they've given here in terms of who they want me to scout, and give those guys to you guys in the near future.
All right. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Jaylen Coker, for joining me earlier today. Quinten Krzysko for your report on Troy Fautanu. And thank you, JP Acosta, for spending an hour with us at the top of the show. That's it for this week. We'll see you all next week. Same time, same station. Take care.